So now we're going to talk about some of the modular elements of the page, and we're going to start out with a discussion of snippets. What are snippets? So here's our sample landing page. And snippets are visual elements that you can add to a page. They're pre-formatted items that allow you to give information in a sort of visually rich context. They're basically fancy. They make your pages fancy and pretty for the most part, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'm looking at the landing page now. If I go over to the editable version of the landing page, we have a prime candidate to look at, see how a snippet functions right here in the teaser content. This item here with some text on the left and a link and an image on the right is a snippet. It's automatically generated whenever you generate a landing page. So let's go into teaser content here and let's take a look at what we have. So the first thing we see is snippet generic section, snippet teaser column intro. And what this is it's a teaser column intro that when it's produced on the page is automatically subset in a generic section snippet. And that's a bit complex to go into for the moment. So let's just focus down here on the teaser column intro part. This is that left-right format snippet on that page. So let's look at the live page. And I'll move down here so we can look specifically at that snippet. So a snippet is a sort of modified table structure. To put it simply, you put text or images, links, whatever, in certain rows of the table in certain sections, and the system in the background recognizes the format that it should place it in, and upon publication of the page, it gives it this look. Pretty much how that works. It can be controlled with some of the table controls. If I click here, for example, I've got the options for table properties and to delete the table. So you can use that to delete one if you wanted to. But let's have a look here and correlate the different parts of the snippet in edit mode to the different parts that are live. We have the style. It's a columned intro. It might have different options there, but that's its default. It's basically setting it up in that left by right structure like this, column, column. Insert an image and add a link using the WYSIWYG toolbar. So this is the image here, and that's sitting in this variation of it on that right side. Note that the image is far larger in what we see here than what is actually shown here on the page. That's because the snippet will not show the whole image. It basically operates sort of like a window looking onto the image. It's much like, say you were standing outside at your house and you look in your front window at your living room. You don't see your whole living room. You just see the portion that the window allows you to see vision of. This works the same way. It's like the image is sitting behind and the window allows only a certain view of what's there. And it sort of changes the shape of this based on what's in the text in here. The more text you have, the taller this gets, so forth. This is an issue for some users because they'll use something like, say, a company logo, and they'll have the size exactly right in terms of, like, say, 800 by 600, which is the recommended size for this. But when they plug it in, it doesn't show the whole logo. It only shows part of it. That's because that window only allows a certain amount of the view. So you would have to go in and say, apply it to a background. And that's a topic we'll discuss when we get to hero image editing in the future. Same rules that will cover that will cover this. But basically, it sets the image there, and maybe we want a different image there. We can use our image control right here to just replace that image. And one thing that some people do is they'll click on this and they'll use the delete or backspace key to delete the image out and then put a new image there. I would recommend you don't do that because some of the snippets have a bug where it will delete the image row entirely out of it sometimes. And if it does that, it pretty much breaks the page and you have to restore the page or have it repaired. You can replace the image without deleting or backspacing the image away, simply by selecting the image, going into Insert Edit Image, and replace it. So let's see what we have here. Maybe we want to change this image to something else. This one looked like a good centered image. Has it ever been published? It has. It's not quite centered. Let's look around a little bit more. That might be a good one. We'll insert that there. Two students in lab performing an experiment as our alternative description. We want to do that. Click Save, and it replaced the image. Create tag link using the WYSIWYG toolbar. First of all, it says optional. Anything that says optional, you can delete it completely out, and it's not an issue at all. It just simply won't appear. If we look at the live page, let's see, that is that little pill button right here. A lot of people will use those if they're wanting a link to the main directory. Like say you have a subpage in a research for a specific team's work, but you want it to also link back to the main directory landing page for research. You could make that link like that here. A lot of people use them like that, and a lot of people actually don't use them at all. They just delete them out. You can set that link here using the Insert Edit Link button, just like normal. So maybe I wanted to send this to my PDF remediation page. I could do that. Note that I'm using filters to navigate the system. Like so. Maybe I want to change the text to be PDF. Save, and it saved it differently. I could completely delete this out. You can also set the image as a URL if you wanted to. Now you've got your insert edit link here, and maybe we wanted to do the same thing. Allows that to be set as a link. So that's going to change that pill button over here to be something different. Next up, we have heading text, and that's this. And note that despite it says paragraph styles and whatever there for the settings there, it's actually automatically formatted to give it an H2 look. That's non-changeable, but it's set basically to take care of that for you. You don't have to change the size or style or anything. I can change that heading. Editorial text. That's this text here. And that's just underneath the supporting text, if you will. Wow, the T's aren't being very happy with me. And note that it is styled in italic. You can style this text if you'd like. I don't want it italic, so I'll select it all, deselect the italic. Deploy strategic systems. That's supporting text and it's optional, so you could delete that completely off and not need it. You see here that we've got sort of a subhead under that's set at an H3 probably. Yep, it is. Deploy strategic systems. And underneath that, we've got a rich link which is this here, the interactive campus map. We could select that, change that link to something else. And I'll just enter the URL there. Alt text help. I think that's one too many T's. There we go. Save. Okay. And note here that that's actually an additional snippet that's tied into the other snippet. That's one of the ways that it makes it easier. A lot of these, a lot of snippets are actually comprised of other smaller snippets. Sometimes the snippets can be deleted out. Like if you didn't want the rich link there, you could delete it out. But I've made those changes, so I'm going to save it. And if I publish it, be sure to give it a description. If I come over here and refresh it, you can see that all those elements have basically changed. Our picture is a link, as you can see at the bottom there. If we click it, it'll take us to whatever page we sent it to. We've got our pill link up here. We've got our heading, the supporting text, web services, and we changed our link. So these are very modular things. You can go through and change them. Optional elements can be deleted, so on and so forth. That's how basically all the snippets function in some aspect or other. Note here that we have a background that is gray with the sort of lighter gray dots. In the case of this snippet, the teaser columned intro section, which is technically that left-right thing, is actually subset in the generic section snippet. The generic section snippet works as a sort of background wallpaper that's behind it. And in this case, we've got section wrap dots, section wrap overlap previous. What that essentially translates to is that section wrap dots. So it's created this dot surround that we have here. So that's what that is. Overlap previous. Overlap previous means it's taking the content that sits within that generic section snippet and it's sort of rolling it up to sort of overlap whatever came before. So we can see here that it sort of crosses up above into the yellow teaser box here. And that's what that is. And the settings there can be changed. Like maybe we want a light background of the light gray version. And note here that we have options for overlap down if we really wanted to do that. A lot of times overlap down ends up giving you a little too much space, I think. Just my thing. Maybe I don't want it to overlap at all. Maybe I just want it on a light background like that. And there we go. Not every snippet operates with the ability to roll up or roll down like that. And not all of them work in a generic section sort of context. Generic section is a sort of an overall snippet that's usually used to add margins to snippets that are on landing pages. And we'll get into a bit of that difference here in a moment. The snippet usage for landing pages and standard content pages are completely different. Largely because of the way the margins work. Landing pages are absolutely designed for snippets that run all the way across the page with no margins. So they get most of the snippets actually, because landing pages are usually used for department homepages and such. So that's where people want the most visual impact in terms of their content. Standard content pages, on the other hand, are set up mainly for text usage. And as I've kind of shown earlier, they have an inbuilt margin. So if you use a page-wide snippet on a standard content page, it's going to hold it to that margin. It's not going to let go of it, which makes them look really, really odd when you use them on the page. Now, if you wanted to use a page-wide snippet on a standard content page, you could. I'm going to go in here and take the sidebar out real quick. And so we see where we have the margins here. So what they have is they have a section called additional content, and it's again in the properties, just like I was in right here. And you'll see when I go into edit mode, that the additional content section actually doesn't have the margin of the main content section. And that's critical. So if I come here, and let's see what the name of that snippet was here real quick. If I were to actually come in here and grab, you can copy and paste snippets from one page to another, which I'm going to do. I'm going to grab that and Control C. So I'm going to drop the snippet in the main content section. And I'm going to drop it in the additional content section as well. You can see just by looking at it like this, that in the main content, it looks very odd. It has margins on it that you don't necessarily want. But in the additional content section where it has no margins, it lays it out just like it should. So you can use the additional content if you have a snippet that's a page wide that you'd like to use on a page. Now we do have online guides for the various kinds of snippets. And there are some snippets that are sort of intended for standard content pages as opposed to the other type. But we can look here. Under add-ons, if you click the add-ons drop down, under here you'll find landing page snippets guide and standard page snippets guide. So I'm going to open each of those separately in a new tab. And what these pages do is they have the actual snippets on them and include information on using them on the various pages. This is the landing page snippet guide here. So it shows how to which snippets work best on landing pages and how to use them. And we have the standard content page snippets guide here. Note these exist in the sidebar. And those are snippets. So you can kind of see the difference in utilization here. The landing page is pretty much all snippets, whereas the standard content page has a lot of text going on, and the snippets are mainly on the side. There are a few exceptions there, but you can kind of see there's the block quote style snippet, rich link, tables, various button settings. So the two pages have a sort of philosophical difference in their usage. Landing pages are very, very visual, have a lot of flair to them. Standard content pages are meant for supporting text, informational text relating to the other. And when you get that down, you don't have to use one for the other. For example, if you go to the landing page, and you might want something on here to have margins, you can totally do that. Margins are applied to the page by use of this generic section snippet. So if I were to drop a generic section snippet, I could drop something in here that I wanted to have margins there, and it would. So that's the overall look on how snippets in general function. Next up, I'm going to do some demonstrations of various snippets in usage, and you can practice with them and sort of see what some of the uses for a variety of them are.